Hey Camp Evergreen, my name is Sid Koop, and I really wish that we could be together at camp this summer. Like, that is the best. I love camp. I actually live at Green Bay Bible Camp where my wife's the director, so huge fan. Unfortunately, we can't, which sucks, but we do get to be online, and I'm really thankful for that. So I want to share with you just a couple of thoughts real quick, and then you can go and process that stuff. Let me start with the story. So I grew up in a really small town in Manitoba, and a town like 500 people, and my dad was seriously my hero. Loved him so much. He was a man of integrity, and he was pretty tough. And he really wanted us to be involved in our community, so that was a huge deal. And hockey in our community was like everything, you know what I mean? So I tell this story a lot because it's one of my favorite stories. I remember I'm at our local rink. I'm like 15 years old, and there's a hockey game going on, and it's the third period. It's been super intense. It's playoffs. There's already been 2 fights, both in the stands actually. So it's like wicked interactive experience. You know what I'm saying? So anyways, third period comes, fight breaks out on the ice. 2 guys go at it. One, spears our captain. It's getting crazy. And then as the refs break them up, bringing them off the ice, I begin to kind of chirp from the stands at the players that coming off the ice. And as I'm chirping, all of a sudden from behind, boom, dude smokes me. I go down. I slowly get up, bam, guy pops me again from behind. So I finally get up and I spin around and I realize it's not like one person, it's 3 people. And they are bigger than me, they're older than me, and they're really upset. And so the one guy looks at me and goes, "You got a pretty big mouth, kid." And I just remember thinking, can't really argue with that because my whole life, that's what teachers have been telling me on my report card. Sid talks too much. So he's right, can't argue with that. Anyways, the guys are getting really upset and they're about to fight me. And all of a sudden this other guy comes running down through the stands, kind of separates right between us, starts another fight over here. So now it's just kind of messed up and crazy. And I remember as I'm standing there, these guys are trying to work their way back to me. And nobody's really aware of me except the 3 guys that really want to mess me up. You know what I mean? And I remember in that moment when these 3 big guys, are coming after me, everyone else is distracted. I'm just finding myself in this space thinking, man, I am alone and this is not going to go well. Hey, have you ever had that moment when you feel like you're alone and maybe things aren't going to go well? And maybe even for some of you, it's like this space that we're in right now where everything has changed. We can't get to school like we normally do. We can't get to activities like we normally do. There's things down the road that we normally look forward to that we know we can't access. And you maybe kind of feel alone and you wonder if you're going to be okay. Do you ever have those moments? Man, I do. And you know what's amazing to me in those moments, what I'm finding myself doing more and more is actually opening up the scriptures to see what God has to say. And in Psalm 139, there's this really sweet part of the Bible. It's called a psalm. That's why they're called the Psalms. And what it is this dude named David, and he's basically writing poetry and thoughts about his relationship with God, how he sees God, the circumstances he finds himself in. And in Psalm 139, he begins to speak of this idea of how we relate to God, especially in difficulties and stuff. And if God is actually near, does God know what's going on? Is he near? Are we actually alone, or is God the creator with us? Listen to what it says in Psalm 139. I'm going to start in verse 7. He says this, "Where shall I go from your spirit? Or where shall I flee from your presence? If I ascend to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me. If I say, surely the darkness shall cover me, and the light about me be night, even the darkness is not dark to you. The night is bright as the day, for darkness is as light with you." Okay, did you hear that? So the psalmist is okay, dude, can I get away from you? And he uses this type of language that speaks of massive expanses. He's talking about if I go to heaven, you're there. If I go down to Sheol, you're there. He's just wherever I go, there you are, man. And he talks about the uttermost parts of the sea. And then he says this, he says, even there your hand shall lead me and your right hand shall hold me. Okay, so a couple things I want to get from this passage. Number 1, people, we can't escape from God. He is everywhere, man. There is not a space you go that God isn't there. All space is God's space. He is so powerful. The Bible would say that he is omnipresent. He is always with us. We can't escape his vision. He is here. So I want you to pause on that for a second. Wherever you are right now, whatever's going on in your life, whatever you're struggling with, whatever you're wrestling with, your failures, your successes, you need to know you are not alone. God actually sees you and he knows exactly what's happening. And what's amazing to me, if you read earlier in the psalm, not only does he sees you, but he understands you. It says that he knows your words before you utter them. He knows what motivates your words. His knowledge is crazy, intricate. He knows everything. He is God, okay? So the powerful one, God, he knows you. But he doesn't just know you. He's intimately invested in you, really intimately invested in you. Okay, so I remember Cole's 10 years old. He's loving basketball, doing basketball practice. And to be honest, 10-year-old basketball practice isn't seriously the most exciting thing ever. But I came home from traveling, so I wanted to go and watch my son at basketball practice. So I go there. And I remember partway through the basketball practice, we're in the gym, he's doing his thing. All of a sudden, I hear him dribble right up to me, and he stops in front of me, and I look up, and he goes, "Dad, you're the only one in the gym on your cell phone." And then he slowly turns and just dribbles away. It's one thing to be present. You know what I mean? To be present, to kind of be aware. It's another thing to be invested, intimately invested. And here's what Psalm 139 says. It says, not only is God present, but he's intimately invested. He says, even there your hand shall lead me. He's leading me. And your right hand shall hold me. He's protecting us. He's guiding us. He's with us in this space. He is intimately invested, okay? So I want you to understand something, that whatever's going on in your life right now, whatever the future holds, I don't know. Whatever the struggles are you're wrestling with, number one, you're not alone. You are not alone. God sees it. He understands it. He's with you. And not only are you not alone, and not only is he aware, but he is invested. He is working for you. He is intimately engaged in the journey that you are on. And he wants you to entrust yourself to him, to surrender yourself to him and allow him to guide and direct you. Even in seasons when it's hard to see him at work, even in the seasons when our faith is weak, God's word tells us that God is powerful and God is good. And no matter what's going on in our lives, he wants us to experience his goodness even in the midst of real difficulty and hardship. He is not against us. He is for us. Okay, so back to the hockey rink. Little town where I grew up, 500 people, right? Stands are going nuts, fights are breaking out. I start chirping at the player, right? 3 guys come and get me. Other fights break out, and these guys are coming after me. And I'm thinking, I'm so screwed because I'm alone right now, and these dudes are coming. Well, what I didn't realize is up in kind of the waiting area, people could see what was happening. And as soon as I got popped, someone yelled at my dad. And they said, "Hey, Ernie, someone just smoked your son." So I didn't know this. My mom was with him, but my dad, Superman's over the candy counter upstairs. And then he comes flying down the stairs to me. And I remember these guys are just coming to me. And also my dad shows up and I'm like, no way. And I remember my dad looks at me and he goes, "Hey, son, what happened?" And I go, "Dad, these dudes just smoked me." And all of a sudden my dad fires up in a way I have never seen before. He's like, "What? Somebody hit you?" And then he's like, "Who hit you? Who hit you?" I'm like, "Not me." He's kind of freaking me out a little bit. And my dad turns around, wades into the crowd. He grabs one of these dudes and he throws him up against the wall of the ring. Now you need to understand something about my father. This is weird to me. Number one, because my dad's an elementary school teacher, okay? So this is not normal operating procedure for elementary school teachers. Oh, and the other thing, my dad is the pastor of our church, right? So I'm just this is so weird. So my dad grabs this dude, tosses him up against the wall, and then he doesn't even look at him. He looks at me and goes, "Is this the guy that hit you? Is this the guy that hit you?" And then, I'm like, "Dad, that's not the guy that hit me." And another guy comes and says, "Ernie, that's not the guy that hit him. It was one of the other guys," but they're long gone at this point. And so Dad turns and looks at this guy, and then he just kind of tosses him. And then he turns around and looks at me and he smiles and he goes, "Hey, keep your head up, son." And then he just kind of walks away. And I remember in that moment, there was such a sense of, he's got me. My dad's got me. I am not alone. And not only is he with me, he is for me. And not only is he for me, he is powerfully for me. Hey, you guys, this is God for you. He knows what's going on in your life. Absolutely, you're not alone, man. You are not alone. He is for you. He loves you, man. He loves you. He is good. But not only is he for you, he is powerfully for you. There is nothing that he ultimately does not have control over. And he is working for you. He is holding you. He is guiding you, and he is directing. Even if you're not aware of it, man, this is God at work. And so the question is, hey, would you trust him? And not just trust him, but would you entrust yourself to him so that you could actually experience his goodness and his presence, whatever's going on in your life? Hey, God bless you guys. And I hope one day, man, we get to roll out at camp again. How good will that be? God bless you.